Hey, you guys, how you doing today? Happy, what is this? Wednesday? Thursday? Oh my gosh. I don't know what day it is today. Wow. All I know is it's cold where I am. If you're in the United States, then it's Wednesday. Okay, happy Wednesday. So if you're in the United States, then you know that it is colder than a witch's teat here. Oh yes, it is. In most of the coast where I am. And so I had to pull out the wool, y'all. I was like, yeah, I got layers on up under this, but I was like, okay. Anyway, but today I wanted to talk to you guys about a little something, and that is this concept of finding your purpose, finding where you fit in, and all of that. And I guess the reason why I am so interested in this right now is because I am blessed to be able to have not only family members, but people that I interact with on the daily that are at that stage. Ugh, sorry, y'all. That are at that stage where they're going through a lot of first time transitions. In the book world, we call them new adults. And so the stuff that we might be used to, they might not be. But anyway, I definitely wanted to just have a little chat with you all today, give you some insight and stuff, and let you know a little bit about what's happening on the podcast and how we're talking about the Goldilocks. How are you able to find your just right? And when I was talking to my younger people that are new adults, I started realizing that this doesn't just apply to them. This is for anybody. And it's for anybody because nowadays we're all having to change. And the uncertainty is killing a lot of people. People are in a state of high anxiety all the time. And now more than ever, there are people being diagnosed with real PTSD because of the uncertainty of not being able to know where to fit in, how to find their groove, how to change. And so I was like, you know what? Let's get into this. Now, if you're listening to me, y'all give me a thumbs up or not a thumbs up. Where am I? Oh, okay. I'm on YouTube. So y'all hit the like button for me. Let me know that you're out there, that I'm not talking into the void and all of that. And ask me questions. Tell me, let me know. Is this something that you're dealing with? And the reason why I'm asking this is because I am starting to see how it really is, seriously, it is really affecting people. And especially with this hemisphere being in the fall season, quickly approaching the winter next month. Seasonal affective disorder is for real. They call it SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And that's a fancy way for saying that when you don't get as much daily sun rays, it can have an adverse effect on your emotions and just a whole bunch of different things that start to happen that people are not even aware that's affecting them. And if there's anything that I can say, do, or put out there to help, I'm definitely all for it. So let me just get into some of the stuff, not the stuff that I necessarily cover in the podcast, but I was thinking about Goldilocks and the fairy tale talking about her breaking in to these bears' house and tasting all their food until she found the one that was just right. And then it was so good that she went and laid down and she tried one bed after another until she found the one that was just right. And then being, awakened in this stranger's house and feeling well rested. I was like, you know what? She had some gall. But this is the thing I will tell you, and that is when you start to find your own way, find your perfect little niche, you do start to get a little more confidence. And we don't want to ever take that for granted because it can be a moving target. Just because you had your mojo yesterday, it does not mean that you're guaranteed to have it today, especially if you're just doing the same thing over and over again. And so there is that. Um, what I what I have been not looking at, but been doing. Yeah, been doing to accommodate the changes that are happening in my environment and in my world is I have been going back to some sage wisdoms. And let me just tell them to you up front. One of them is this saying that's attributed to Napoleon Bonaparte, and that is with regards to your life or a war or any kind of strategy, what he has said is that you separate to live, you unite to win. And that can mean different things. But in this regard of being able to find your just right, find that thing that's going to work just for you, I am looking at it this way. And that is, we all, I hope we all know that what's good for someone else might not be good for you. And we are locked in a world. Sorry, y'all. I'm saying it's dry outside and my hands are looking like the crypt keeper. So I got to put me a little lotion on so y'all won't be talking about my ashiness. So anyway, what I've been finding is that people that like I get the opportunity to work with, observe, or whatever, everybody wants to have a strategy, but they're calling a strategy is actually a cookie cutter recipe. Everybody wants to know how to do something just like someone else so that they can have that person's success or that what that person has been able to achieve. And it's taking everybody out of finding that little place that's uniquely yours, that you need to own that corner of the world that's been apportioned to you. And going back and looking at what Napoleon Bonaparte said, he said it at the turn of hostilities across Europe after he had crowned himself emperor of France. Yes, emperor. And I think it was because he used that term and they were like, oh, this little man ain't gonna stop. He's gonna keep going, which was true. Because if you say emperor, that means that you want many countries. That's what the word means. And so he changed it up. Instead of doing his strategies and things like he had, because by this time, a lot of generals around Europe had studied him and they were getting better at his strategy than he was in some cases. And so they thought they knew what was going to happen. And here he comes saying, okay, I'm about to take Italy. I see you, Russia. I'm marching over there. I mean, he was just going for it. And so they, had to find a way to stop him. But yet, lo and behold, he did something that would go on to inspire guerrilla warfare. What is that? 80 years later, and that was is that he pulled back his troops and trained them. He took 3 years to train them, and instead of doing the large campaigns where he would lead them out, he separated to live, meaning that instead of like having a 70,000 person battalion, he would sometimes make them real small, like 15,000, where they could be real agile. And therefore, he amassed a great army, and everybody is thinking he's got all these people. And what he did was is he took like 200 odd thousand men and turned them into these elite little fighting teams where because they were able to be so agile, they kept the enemy on the run and they kind of like surrounded them like coyotes on the hunt. And no one had ever really seen that before. But he knew that in order for them to survive and to live, they couldn't behave the way they always had because that was not a guarantee. And I guess y'all can tell that I really am. I don't know what it is, but I'm at that point now where I am studying a lot of strategy and warfare. And I never thought I would find that interesting. But y'all, I'm serious. There is a lot to be learned, especially if you start with ancient. I'm talking about ancient warfare and strategy, pre-Greek. Yes, pre-Greek. I'm talking about Han Dynasty, Byzantine, Asian conquest, all of that. And don't get me started on more contemporary, where you've got the Chinese um, North South Korean aggressions and the Chinese divisions with communism. I'm like, it's amazing. But let me get back on what I was saying. Oh my God, Michelle, squirrel moment for real, y'all. Anyway, okay. So with this separate to live, so what he would do is, instead of having these big battalions marching, because he knew that there would be spies. He wanted to create this like phantom kind of situation where they would be like, well, I saw them here in Danu. No, I saw them here in the South. No, I saw them here and I saw them there. And people were thinking that because he is this great military genius, that surely he couldn't be all over the place, because they weren't used to realizing that he understood to find his best spot. It didn't always mean that he had to be leading. And so what he did was is he basically cloned himself. He made many little Napoleons who were general, not well, younger men that he turned into generals. And this was like one of the first times that this strategy had been used. And thus he was able to separate to live. And with this quote unquote separation to live, he also trained them in how to think on the run. So they became very agile. And he was like, don't just try to regurgitate what I would do. I've trained you. You know what I would do. Now take that and do more like me to meet the challenge that's here. And by them having that freedom, because he trusted them, he supported them, that's how they were able to think on the run. And y'all, at this time, they didn't have cell phones, they didn't even have telephones. It would take weeks for them to be able to communicate with each other. But because he was willing to be agile, to try new things, and to devote his resources and his time to investigating things by having proxies out there, that's how they were able to not only live, because when it came time, his troops were bringing people back in, I mean, bringing the enemy back in, so that when they united, they had him circled. And now, what does this have to do with how to find your just right? Sometimes we are all or nothing kind of folk. We're always trying to put all our effort in this and all our effort in that. And it's nothing wrong with it when the time calls for that. But sometimes you've got to be able to diversify your resources that you got. You've got to be able to use the agility of being able to make sure that you're well rounded. And that's one of the wisdoms that I had to get about finding the sweet spot, especially when I'm dealing with someone who is like, I have no clue what I want to do in life. I don't know how to find my purpose. I've done all the other stuff that you've suggested and others have suggested. And what I told them was, right now, you're in survival mode. You're in living mode. What you need to do is you need to trust yourself to be adventurous. Going back to Goldilocks, I was like, what would give someone the audacity to basically break and enter, get into somebody's house, and then eat their food, and then lay in their bed? This person got to be downright cuckoo. But then, if you look at it in the context of not a fairy tale, but if this was real life, this person is probably hungry and desperate and willing to do whatever it is. Because if you think about Maslow's Maslow's hierarchy of need, we can't think about all this high and lofty stuff when we got an empty belly and we need to just survive through the night. And so I can definitely see a person like a Goldilocks taking that kind of penitentiary chance to break and enter and eat somebody's food and get in their bed and go to sleep. And the same thing with Napoleon. Not only, I mean, this man, this man had, let me make sure I got him right. I'm gonna miss some of them. But he not only did he have Prussia, Austria, England, um, Italy. Yeah, because Russia was Prussia at that time. Yeah, he had at least four countries teed off with him. And because he's like, I am Emperor of France. Watch me now. And they're like, oh, no, 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 no. What you're not finna do. And so they were all ganged up on him. And instead, because they had heard tell that he had amassed, I think at the time it was like over 210,000 marching, so not marching, but his whole brigade of people was 210,000. It defies the understanding of what was usual and customary there for him to be willing to, quote unquote, weaken his best asset by willing to break them down into factions of anywhere from, I think they even said sometimes it was only 3,000, 3,000, 15,000, 30,000, 70,000. So he can have them all over the place. But because of that, because he was hungry for the win, and not only for the win, but he wanted to survive. He wanted to keep his men alive. He was able to force himself to think outside of the box. And I don't even like to say outside of the box because I'm going to just tell you now, when you get to the point where maybe you're at a desperate point, and that might be you that I'm talking to right now, and you need to find your place because anxiety and living in constant hypervigilance, you're tired of it and you're blowing through your cortisol levels, you're catching headaches and all of these chronic illnesses that you shouldn't have. I want you to remember this. Be willing to separate to live. And your separation might, maybe, look like something like this. Your separation might look like taking that talent that you have been hiding because you don't think it's ready to preview, and going and being willing to fail. That might mean walking up to somebody's job and saying, I know you're probably not hiring, but I'm a local consultant, or I'm willing to intern, and here is my portfolio, or here is the address. Who can I send my link to? Or it might look something like this. When you have nothing else to lose, maybe you start to just put things out and put feelers out. So many people would be doing so much better if they would be willing to separate, whether it be your resources or even the defenses that you've built up around your pride for not wanting to fail famously in public, and just being like, look, I'm taking clients, or I'm doing this, or letting people know. Because guess what? When it comes to survival time, sometimes you're going to be Goldilocks out there, and you're going to be breaking in. You're going to be getting to the point where you break into somebody's house, eat their food, and get in their bed. And when they wake you up, you got the nerve to be like, oh, that was real good. I was like, the audacity of this fairy tale. If this were real life, we would be like, cool, you need to go 5150 whole, honey. And and all of that. I mean, I'm making light of it, but there are really some people out here right now hurting and not knowing what to do. And it may have worked for you in the past where you marshaled all your strength, all your resources to bet it on one thing. And that's fine when you have gotten over the hump of having to survive the day. Napoleon, separate to live, unify to win, and to thrive. And so be willing to break up some of this stuff. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's really not. Because if you diversify, most people who have any kind of stocks or investments tell you, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And yet and still, we do it with our life. We do it with our aspirations. And when it doesn't work, there's complete failure because we didn't have any fallbacks. This is kind of a fancy way of saying have plan Bs with an S, but make them where you have enough of them so that if one of them doesn't work, it doesn't hurt so bad. And if one or a few of them works, well, you can now expound and expand on that. And that's a wonderful thing. I want to, and this is coming up, so I'm going to just say it. For that person that maybe has been looking for a job for a while, and you're like, what is going on? I can't seem to land my next position. And you're feeling down and you're feeling out. This is what I want you to say. I want you to think of. And that is, I want you to become prolific. All right. I talk a little bit about this in the podcast today. And the way I am defining prolific is, in addition to going broad and wide, like the separate to live, I want you to find that sweet spot for you that's somewhere nestled between totally crazy and innovative. I hope I'm doing this on the right side. Yeah, totally crazy and innovative. And I want you to find that area where you look new, fresh, renewed, and you look different. Because if you are doing the thing that you've always done and it has not gotten you anything, the mind that created this is not the mind or the actions that's going to be the one to get you out of this. And so this, and like I said, I'm sensing that maybe I need to say this to this person or persons. So what does looking prolific look like for you? If, say, for instance, you are an engineer, I don't know why that one's coming up, but what if you're an engineer and you're doing the usual and customary? You need a good old pattern interrupt. And what a pattern interrupt is, it's the unexpected. It's the attention getter that gets someone to be like, what was that? You need that so that you can get that attention on you. Going back to my story about Napoleon when he was fighting against an Austrian general, and the general was marching with a whole bunch of folk. Napoleon did not quake or wonder what his men were doing. He let them do their work. He allowed himself to go with a much smaller faction of his military regimen, and he allowed the timing to be right. And he created different patterns to the point where the Austrian general was confused about what was going on because he couldn't figure out what was that sly fox up to. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize, especially whether you want to be or not. You're in this competitive environment where there are many applicants. People are not willing to take a chance on themselves the way they need to. What is it that you can do that is out the box, but you're good at and that you could sustain if you need to? Start investigating those types of things and do that. Separate your resources to go off and try to do a project as a demo. There have been many people that I personally know who wanted to break into an industry. They had no contacts. And so what they would do is they would just go and start doing a project for someone and tell them, hey, I saw you needed this. Here you go. If you want more work, if you want me to, do more work for you, here's my card. And just by being out the box, and instead of coming hat in hand, the old proverbial saying of I'd like you to pay me to do something, they took the initiative and did something different where they already did something. No strings attached, but hey, if you like what you see, there's more, being the outlier, that kind of thing. And yeah, so I hope that helps you. But there are many ways to get to finding, reclaiming your mojo. And one of them just starts by diversifying and not putting all your hopes on this one thing. And I know you say, oh, I'm not doing that. but you possibly could, because this one thing could be just this one avenue. I've had many people tell me, "Oh no, Michelle, I can't do that." And when I tell them money does not come from a job, they're like, "What?" No, money does not come from a job. A job is just one of the avenues that money can come to you. And money is not even money as you think of it. There are many ways to get legally to get yourself taken care of. And it takes that person who is willing to get outside of themselves, to break up the sure thing that they're basing all their hope on, and sending little parts of it out, like the little mini foxes out, that's when you get the big wins. And I'll tell you this part too. When you break your own pattern, what you do is you bring in a new gust of energy that's supportive, that works on your behalf, because the new energy says, hmm, they are getting back into the flow of change, because that's all we really have. When you break down energy, energy is nothing, is a substance that's neither created nor destroyed, always moving into and out of um, form. And so change is all we really do have. And when you do this, when you break your own patterns, when you parcel out little things that can go and do different things, where while you're looking for this job, you're also acting like either a consultant or your own company. Uh, and also, you're doing things in a different industry with maybe some transferable or peripheral skills. I was this I was watching this the other day, and this man who is a fireman, he and his family wanted to save money. And so he bought a school bus. They call him a schoolie. He bought a school bus, gutted it out, and he had only done like a little bit of Habitat of Humanity kind of volunteering before. So he didn't know electrical or any of that kind of stuff. And he taped the entire process, which was great. And it took him 18 months. But during that time, he converted his school bus, did all the electrical, the plumbing, everything, and now his family lives in it. And because of that, he's now able to do little projects in addition to his fireman work. And he and his wife trade off because they have a small child, where they don't need daycare because of him being able to do this, because he separated. He uh, learned a little bit at a time. It might have taken him 18 months to convert the school bus into a home, but he was able to do it. And I just look at those kinds of things as being brilliant and being a pathway, a sturdy bridge to getting us to find that area that's just right. And because of that, him and his family, they are happy. He has this YouTube channel that's bringing in money. He's doing other things. The little baby is happy. And I mean, I know that this could possibly just be for, show, but still, it rings true with authenticity. And so anyway, I can tell that it is time for me to close this down, because the melanin is winning against the waning sun. And so, you guys, I want you to know that it's okay to embrace your inner Goldilocks. It is okay to go and do things in a different way than you've ever done them before. When you break your pattern, when you diversify, when you remember that you can separate to survive and then come back and unify to win or to thrive, and when you're willing to take a chance on something that you know could possibly fail, that's when you start to get into areas that you would have never gotten into. That's how you reconnect with your mojo. That is how you find your purpose and your place for this time. And there you have it. So I am enjoying having these dailies with y'all. It's just, man, this is part of my pattern interrupt. I've been meaning to do these. I've successfully done them in the past, but it's something about being able to go live with you. And yeah, I'm really appreciative. So thank you for watching to this point. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. I love hearing from you. I love knowing you're there. And until tomorrow, this has been Michelle Spiva with a Wisdom Smack Chat. I'll see you guys later. Bye. Let me see if I did this right.